We're just yakking away during the breaks here. Welcome back to CentralValleyTalk.com. Let's talk business. Let's talk law right now with local criminal defense attorney Mark Broughton. Did I get it right?
You did. Thanks, Mike.
Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to Glad you're here.
Glad to be here.
How's biz? Never a shortage of clients.
No, there isn't. No, we're very, very busy, so we have no complaints in that regard. It's kind of unfortunate that families and people that are accused of crimes end up in our office, but that's
But they deserve representation.
Absolutely. The Constitution guarantees them the right to adequate representation. That's what we do.
How much of your business is people coming into your office as opposed to cases being assigned to you by the court?
Well, now all of our cases come to us with the exception of a few. I happen to still be on the what's called the capital panel or the special circumstances panel, where I'm appointed on cases where the person is in a murder case charged with special circumstance, so they could either be eligible for the death penalty or life without the possibility of parole. And then on the federal side, we get appointed on federal cases that there's a conflict or some other issue with the federal public defender being able to handle them. Other than that, it's people that contact us that need us to represent themselves, or usually a family member charged with anything from DUIs to murders. So.
Yeah. I wasn't aware that not all criminal defense attorneys could handle or couldn't handle death penalty cases. You have to have a certain qualification to do that?
Yes, you do. You have to be qualified. There are American Bar Association guidelines that describe the type of qualifications that an attorney needs. The California State Bar, excuse me, also has certain minimum qualifications. And here in Fresno, the Fresno Superior Court has a list of qualifications that it requires, excuse me, for attorneys to have.
Need some water?
Yes, in order to represent someone. And it usually requires the handling of any number of murder cases or serious violent cases and that type of thing. So, yeah, you have to be qualified to handle those cases.
Take a drink there. It must be difficult representing someone and knowing that how you do your job could determine potentially down the road whether they live or die.
Yeah, that weighs on you heavily. Years ago, I used to think what we say, own the verdict, and I took all of this home with me. And now what I realized, which has allowed me to go on in my career, is that my responsibility is to do everything I can for my client, but it is up to the jury to make the decision about what happens with that client. So I'm like any other person. You know, I was an athlete when I was younger. I like to win. I do everything I can for my client to win, but like I say, when all the evidence is in and we've set our closing arguments, it goes to the jury and they own what happens to that person.
Maybe you can explain to me. I was called for jury duty recently on a very high-profile murder case, potentially a death penalty case.
Wasn't mine, was it?
No,
Oh.
no. I won't mention the name of who it was, but I was surprised that I went as far as I did through the jury selection process. I was called back. I mean, I was in the group that was called back, I think about 5 times. And I had, in my questionnaire, I had written, I know some of the police officers involved in this case. I know about the story itself. I was heavily involved with it, which I thought would immediately eliminate me. Why wouldn't the attorneys have said, get this guy out of here, we don't want him on the jury?
Well, even though you know all those things, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't be fair and impartial when it comes to sitting on that
I'd
jury
like to
panel.
think that, yeah. But
oh, certainly, we all do. I've been called for jury selection myself, and they made me sit there for, I think last time was 2 days before the prosecutor booted me. But
do you know any of the judges? Yes, I know them all.
I know them all. I knew the judge, and a particular judge says to me, well, hello, Mr. Broughton. Hello, Judge. He says, you really think you can be fair and impartial in this case? And I said, absolutely. You know, I'm an officer of the court. Of course I would. Yeah. So,
do you really think most juries are fair and impartial?
Oh, boy, that's a tough question.
I know.
That is a really tough question.
We'd like to think they are, but I wonder what really goes on in some of those jury rooms.
We all, you know, have our experiences in life. We all come into court with our own prejudices, our own feelings and beliefs, and, you know, we ask the jury about these questions ahead of time. And we try to be very thorough in selecting a jury that that can put all of that sort of out of their mind and just determine the case on the evidence that's presented. But I can't remember a case that I've done, and I've probably tried 200 plus cases that where there wasn't something that occurred or the jury didn't tell us, something along those lines. Of course, we kind of get upset at ourselves now and again for not being able to flush that out, but jurors sometimes feel that it's not appropriate or they don't want to tell those things to us, and unfortunately, for either side, either the government or for the defense side, it can cause a problem in a trial.
All right. You mentioned DUI earlier. You handle a lot of DUI cases.
Oh, we handle hundreds of DUIs.
Tonight in Clovis, for the opening of the Clovis Rodeo, Clovis Police have announced that they're going to have a big DUI checkpoint out there, so you might have some new cases coming your way tomorrow. But those are tough to handle, too, aren't they?
DUIs?
Yeah.
Oh, they're very complicated. You know, as a young lawyer, we sort of cut our whistle on DUI cases, but now, because of the development of the science, the changing of the law over the years, it's become very complicated, not only in terms of the law and DMV issues, but in terms of the science of it. It really gets kind of complicated. So.
What can a person end up spending for a good attorney on a DUI case these days? Tens of thousands of dollars?
Well, you know, prices vary, and sometimes they vary depending on the level of experience of the attorney. It also depends upon, you know, the nature of the case. If you have a DUI and there's an injury, you know, you're looking at a felony situation. If you have a simple DUI and the person has 2 or 3 priors, you know, you have another situation. I have a case right now where the young man was involved in a DUI accident probably 3 or 4 years ago. He had gotten off probation, and now he's involved in a very simple, what would appear to be a simple DUI, but it's very complicated because the amount of time that he's looking at because of his prior.
Because of the prior.
All right,
wow.
so they can be very complicated. In answer to your question, it can range probably between you know, on the low end, maybe $3,000, $4,000 to the high end, maybe $20,000, $25,000 and up. There can be costs involved in that as well. That doesn't include the indirect costs of insurance and things of that nature. I mean, the insurance costs for somebody who has an alcohol-related driving offense, whether it be a wet reckless or a DUI, can triple or quadruple over a period of 5 to 7 years. So it gets very expensive. So if you're the Clovis Rodeo, don't drink and drive, or have
a designated
driver.
There you go. Good advice from Mark Broughton, local attorney, criminal defense attorney. Where's your office? How can folks reach you?
Well, we're downtown. The address is 2445 Capitol Street, Suite 150 in Fresno, 93721. We're actually right sort of next to the Galleria, between the Galleria and the Federal Court on O and Tulare Streets.
You know right where that is. Thank you for coming in today.
Well, thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. And you are watching Let's Talk Business on CentralValleyTalk.com.